Are you gaslighting your kids? Chances are you are. Not because you're a bad mom, not because you don't care about your kids or you're trying to manipulate them. It's because that's how you were treated and that's how you were taught that is the right way to raise our kids. But today we're going to talk about why it's not helpful, why it's actually harmful, and how to break the cycle. So let's get into it. So first off, in case you don't know, what's gaslighting? The short definition, and I've gone into this several times on the podcast, which I will link to those episodes down below if you want a deeper dive. But in short, gaslighting is when someone convinces you and makes you believe that your thoughts, feelings, and emotions are wrong. They make you believe that the reality that you're experiencing is wrong and therefore you are inherently wrong. You are crazy. You cannot be trusted with your own experiences. Does this sound familiar for anyone else? We hear about this a lot when it comes to abusive relationships, and heck, that's exactly what we talk about here on the podcast, is healing from abusive relationships. But the reason why I bring this up now is because we have a really bad habit of also doing it to our kids. Now, like I said already, this is not because you're a bad mom. This is because it's what's taught to us. This is our current normal. And it's up to us as moms to break this cycle so it doesn't continue. So first off, what does this look like and why is it harmful? A way that we may gaslight our kids is when our kids are having a big emotion and we say, it's no big deal. Settle down. You're overreacting. Now, if this is bringing up any feelings, trust me, you're not alone. I am calling myself out as I'm recording this. So you're not alone. You're not a bad mom. But we can't change what we're not aware of. So bringing this awareness is really important. And telling our kids that their emotions are invalid, that their feelings are wrong, teaches them that they cannot be trusted with their own thoughts, feelings, and emotions. This means that as they get older, they are going to believe that they cannot be trusted with their thoughts, feelings, and emotions. They can't trust reality, and therefore, they're going to learn reality from other people. They're going to lean on others. They're going to lean on people who are going to take advantage of the fact that they don't trust their reality. Now, I know that that's like diving in really deep, and I know that that's kind of an extreme example, but unfortunately, the extreme example is what's common. This is what we see a lot of. I know that us as survivors, we have experienced gaslighting when we were in the abusive relationship. We experienced gaslighting when we tried to come forward and nobody believed us. Some of us may have experienced medical gaslighting when we were trying to receive help from the hurt that we had received, right? This is a problem. And while I fully believe this is a massive societal issue, we have to start with us and we have to start with our kids. That is the only way that we are going to change the next generation and the generation after, and so on and so forth. This is how change is going to happen. But all right, Carly, that's all fine and good, but why is this harmful? Why is it such a big deal? Why does this matter? So when you're in an abusive relationship, the reason that we are gaslit is to manipulate us into trusting the abuser, into trusting the person that is making us believe that they are better than us. So that way we will blindly follow them even when it's not great, or even when it's unhealthy, even when they are wrong, even when we deserve better. We can take that exact same concept and apply it to our kids. As parents, I mean, heck, today alone, I had this moment. I am exhausted, to be completely honest with you. I love my child so much, but it's a lot. It's a lot being a mom. It's a lot being a single mom, right? Like, you're doing this on your own, and I snapped and I was just like, you know what? You're just gonna have to get over it because I'm sick of hearing about it. And this, in that moment, told my child that I was sick of hearing about his emotion and his experiences. Do things get annoying? Yes. Do we view things as overreacting? Absolutely. But how we approach the situation and how we handle the situation affects how they're going to see themselves and how they see the world. It is okay for you to be sick and tired of hearing about how disappointed your child was at losing that video game, or like for losing that round, or for getting mad at their friend. And there is a really big difference between, oh my God, get over it, I'm sick of hearing about it, and, you know, this sounds like it's really, really bothering you. What can we do to work through it so it doesn't impact you in the future? And I know that seems like that latter sounds really advanced for kids, right? But of course we have to take this and make it make sense for children. But it all matters how we communicate these things. Because telling someone that to just get over it and you're sick of hearing about it is invalidating their feelings and telling them what they're feeling is wrong. And that they are inherently wrong for thinking, feeling, experiencing those things. So you have to have the awareness of what it is and when you do it. Now, how do we recognize when it's happening? Because these things, the act of gaslighting in general and calling it that is uncomfortable, but it's important to call it what it is. This has become habitual. This is a habit. Like, it's such a part of our daily life that we don't even realize that we're doing it. Especially like if we are trying to change the way that we're parenting our kids and our parents want to have an opinion on how we're parenting our kids, they're going to gaslight us into trying to get us to gaslight our kids because they don't understand that what they're doing is harmful, right? Like, this stuff, it runs really deep. So it is important first to realize that you are not a bad mom for struggling through this. You are human. And so now that you're aware that this happens, now we have to have the awareness of when it comes up and when it happens. Because the more aware we become in the moment, the easier it's going to be to prevent those moments from happening in the future. Something else to keep in mind that I feel like a lot of, and I mess up, I get this wrong too, I forget this too, is that we have an understanding of what real life is, right? Like, quote unquote, real life. We have experienced things like loss and being broke, not having money to buy groceries, trying to pay bills, dealing with an eviction or dealing with, cars getting repoed, or there's a stressful job situation or the stressful family situation. We have experienced really heavy, really hard things. And because we have experienced really heavy, really hard things, that's how we see life. So anything less than that, anything less than what we've experienced, we expect others to just get over it and move on. But our children don't have that view on life. They don't have that experience. For kids, getting into a fight with a friend is a really big deal. Even if it was over something really small and what we perceive as to be really stupid. That's huge to them because that's the biggest thing that's happened in their life. They don't have all the other context to put with it. They are heartbroken. Or when they lose a video game and it affects them, it's like, okay, like they gotta get over it, but we have to understand where they are and where their brain development is so we don't come at them expecting them to have this massive context that they don't have. And honestly, how many times have you been in an uncomfortable situation where you are having these big feelings, you are getting angry, you are processing these things, and someone says to you, oh my God, it's no big deal, just get over it. How does that go over? How does that make you feel? Does it make you feel good? Like, oh yeah, no, you're totally right, I just gotta get over it. Pff, my bad, I'm over it. Or does it make you get a little pissy? Or does it make the situation worse? We hate being told that stuff as adults, but why do we expect our kids to just take it with amazing grace and not have any trouble with it? Of course, they're not going to like hearing that. We don't even like hearing that. So it's important to understand where our kids are at. The other part of gaslighting that happens is when we as parents don't know how to take responsibility for our actions. And this comes up a lot. Or our child will do something, we are triggered and we react to that situation and we say, that wouldn't have happened if you wouldn't have made me. You made me angry and you made me scream at you. You made me throw that. You made me do this. You made me. We are putting all of our personal responsibility on the child and saying that it's our child's job to manage our emotions and our emotional state. Think about it this way. You're in the abusive relationship and your abuser's looking at you and they do something, they scream at you, they throw things, they threaten you. And they tell you, if you just wouldn't have made me so mad, if you would have just listened to me, if you would have just done these things, that's hurtful. And we know now, being out of it, that is a red flag because that's not our fault. Their reaction is not our responsibility. Us expressing ourselves does not cause anyone to do anything. That was their choice and their lack of emotional maturity. But when we talk to our kids, we mirror that to our kids, and then we are surprised when that doesn't work, or we're surprised when our kids have low self-esteem, or we're shocked when they don't want to come to us when they are really struggling with certain situations. It is really important for us as adults to take responsibility for our actions and for our responses. And here's the deal. There are going to be times where you are so tired that you are going to snap. That doesn't make you a bad mom, but that also does not make it your child's fault that you snapped. There were other things at play. Maybe you couldn't get enough rest. Maybe you were overworked. Maybe there were other things. And unfortunately, your child was on the receiving end of the straw that broke the camel's back. But that doesn't make it your child's fault for you having that reaction. And I know that this is hard to hear. It's hard for me to say. I'm literally like talking to myself. Like my screen's over here while I'm recording. I'm like, I need to say this to myself too, because I need to hear it. It is incredibly important for us to take responsibility for the harm that we have caused in this situation. But we cannot get defensive. Like right now, if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, like you're probably getting a bit defensive and you're probably getting angry. And I get that because I would be the same way. If I was on the receiving end of this information, I guarantee you I wouldn't receive it well. I would know it's right, but I wouldn't receive it well. It is incredibly important that we have this understanding of like, okay, I don't want to hear it, but it's true. Because we cannot expect our kids who don't have fully developed brains to have the understanding that we have. And we also cannot expect our kids to grow up thinking that it is their job to make sure that our emotions are okay. Because I don't know about you, but I am real sick and tired of having to worry about other adults and their emotions. I hated the fact that I had to tiptoe and I had to be careful about how I said things, about how I did things, about how I had to spend 3 hours brainstorming with a friend of mine to figure out how to say the right thing in order to get a positive response. I don't want to pass that on to my child. And so it is important for me as an adult to take responsibility for what I have done and the harm that I have caused, so I can then learn from that and then lead my children or lead my child or, lead my family, whatever it may be. But we can't expect our kids to have the skills that we don't even have. And so number one, how do we repair the damage? Like, all right, Carly, you've made me feel like crap. That's great. But what now? How do I repair the damage? Number one is you got to give yourself grace. Like this stuff is really, really hard. It is so ingrained in us. It is so ingrained in our day-to-day. It is ingrained in how we approach life. It is important that we get comfortable being uncomfortable. And we, number one, have to learn to apologize. But there's a caveat here. I don't want you to just say sorry and then repeat the same behavior. I'm guilty of that. What does that do? That teaches our child that sorries don't mean anything. And that sorries are only to be said to put a band-aid on the situation, only for them to repeat the behavior 5 minutes later. If we want our kids to have these skills, we have to model those skills. So one, when we apologize, we have to mean it. We have to take responsibility and not say, I'm sorry I yelled at you, but it was your fault. No, you say, I'm so sorry I yelled at you. I was very upset. I got triggered in the moment. And even though I was upset, I should not have responded in that way. And I'm going to work to do better. And then you gotta work to do better. You have to get comfortable in the uncomfortable feelings of apologizing to your kids and then doing the work to be better. Empty apologies mean nothing. Empty apologies are only there to put a band-aid on, and they show that you don't really care. Empty apologies teach us that sorries and apologies don't matter and that behavior will never change. So we have to be willing to take responsibility for one, take responsibility for the past, present, and our future, take responsibility for the harm we've caused, for the harm we're actively causing, and the harm that we'll probably cause in the future because we're parents and we're new at this, right? Like we've never parented today in today's day and age before. We have never parented today in this moment. This moment's brand new. Like we're all learning. But we have to take responsibility for it and grow, and that is how our kids are going to learn to take responsibility for their mistakes and grow. So take some time, and you might want to pull out a journal and journal on this and process through it and let yourself really feel the feelings and get angry and get sad and feel like crap, and then learn to get up and feel better. And then the second part is to apologize. Apologize freely. Apologize continually when you catch yourself gaslighting your kids and say, hey, you know what? I shouldn't have said that. That wasn't okay. Instead, I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to step away. I'm going to go process my feelings about it. I am going to, go journal. I'm going to go take a walk around the block. or I'm just gonna say that I'm sorry, and if you're willing to forgive me, I would love a hug. If you need some time, that's fine, but I'm here for you. Something like that. Like whatever, I was gonna say whatever feels comfortable for you, but in reality, this is all probably gonna feel super uncomfy, and that's okay. That's normal. This is hard. And you're doing really, really, really hard things. And you are facing the things that so many other people, that the majority of people are not willing to face. And so just the fact that you have made it this far into this episode is incredible. Because this is hard. This is really freaking hard. And the next part of that, now that you're like, all right, Carleigh, like I will take responsibility. I'm willing to apologize. But what now? What do I do then? The next thing is to learn what causes you to react this way. And that is a huge part of this, is learning how to find and manage your triggers. Finding your triggers and learning what they are and how to cope with them is going to help you not gaslight so much in the future. Because a lot of the times we think of triggers as something that, like a firework going off that triggers a veteran to have a PTSD trigger, right? Sometimes a trigger is they're whining and they're arguing and you just snap back with how they need to get over it. Or sometimes they are crying and they're upset about something and they've said it over and over and over and you are just done, so you snap. Like, it's not always this massive event. Sometimes it's a lot of little things that add up. It's one whine here, it's an argument there, it's throwing a fit here. And all of these things you may have handled well, but all of a sudden over here it's like, nope, I'm gonna snap, because that's all my brain can handle. And so you have to learn how to find and manage and cope with your triggers. And I know that that's hard and that takes work. And so I wrote an ebook that is dedicated to teaching you how to do exactly that. And it is completely free. You can find the link to it. It's entitled Triggered. You can find the link to it down in the show description below if you're watching on YouTube, or it's in the show description if you're listening on the podcast. And it is, like I said, it is totally free. You can go and grab that today. And when you do, you get immediate access and you can start putting in this work. And this is a workbook that I don't want you to just, read once and then tuck away into, the email abyss or the downloads disaster folder on your phone or on your computer. I don't know about you. I have to clean out my downloads folder once a quarter now because it gets really full. Everything just lives there. But I want you to go over this continually. And I want you to, as you go through it, you think of more triggers in the future, go over it again. And go back to basics again. Process through this again. Do the exercises in there. That workbook is so powerful and it is so valuable. It's the exact framework that I share with my paying clients. So this isn't just, just some rinky-dink little freebie that I shared. Not at all. This is something that will absolutely change your life if you commit to it. So carleighlane.com/triggered. The link for that is down below, whether you're listening or watching. So go check that out. And finally, I want you to know, as a final reminder, that you are not a bad mom. You are healing and you are learning and you are actively doing better. And that is something worth celebrating. Thank you for hanging out, boo. I'll catch you on the next one.